Hi everyone and welcome back to Made Up. Today we have the lovely Jo in the studio and we're going to be talking about breakouts. Some of us get them and they're not very nice, they make us feel a bit rubbish, but you can use products to cover them without feeling like you're masked in makeup. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. And the skincare I've used to prep Jo's skin is by Alpha H. It's called Essential Hydration Cream and this is really good for combination skin as it really moisturises the areas that we want to cover. So keep on watching, see what products I've used, and I hope you enjoy. Here are some close-ups of Jo's skin so you can see the areas that we need to cover. Jo has cystic acne, which is one of the most common forms of acne. If you're worried about your skin, go to your GP and try and get referred to a dermatologist. Or look on Caroline Heron's website, she has loads of advice about acne. It's beautymouth.com. Now I've decided to use a BB cream on Jo. I like using BB creams, especially for daytime, as they give a really natural look on the skin. They give a bit more coverage than a tinted moisturiser, and they actually kind of keep the skin a bit more hydrated. So this is perfect for Jo, as the rest of her skin is really clear, so I don't really need to use foundation to cover that up. So now you can see I'm just using a few different brushes to buff that product into the skin, and you can see just using the BB will actually take down some of the redness from the spots, so this is quite a good base for us before we apply concealer. And that colour looks really good on Jo's skin. That's the medium shade from Bobbi Brown, and it also has an SPF of 35, which is great, so you know, your skin is protected against the environment. This is one of the Real Techniques brushes that Sam Chapman created. It's a little buffing brush, which is great when you want to really buff a product into the skin to make it look super natural. And the next thing I will be showing you is where Jo has been using some quite strong medication from the doctor. You can see, just as I'm pointing out here, some of the spots are quite dry, and that will be because of the medication that she's been putting on them. So what I'm now having to do is go back in with a cotton bud, just add a little bit of moisturiser and just moisturise those spots, because they will, if they're drier, they'll be harder to cover with concealer. So what I'm going to do is let that moisturiser soak in, and then I'm going to go back in with my BB and my concealer after the spot has been a bit more moisturised. So basically it's a lot easier to cover, and I think a lot of people with spots think they have to dry the spots out, but they actually make them harder to cover if they're drier. So now this is my Laura Mercier concealer, and now I'm just I'm just blending the moisturiser into the skin, and you can see now the spots they do look visible, but they look a lot less drier than when we first applied the BB. So now I'm just going in with a very fine brush, adding a little bit more BB cream, and then just buffing that in again with a Real Techniques brush. I'm using a smaller brush because I'm just using on a smaller area to cover. And now it's time for the concealer. So it's very small, fine layers that you want to do when concealing spots. You don't want to just chuck a load of thick, heavy concealer on. It's all about very fine layers. And as you can see, I'm being quite gentle as I'm applying. And the redness will start to go down. So you can just see the technique, quite gentle, kind of pushing that product into the skin so it really has a chance to absorb onto the area. And basically a combination of a buffing technique, a good concealer and a good base and a good powder, you'll be able to cover anything. But you do really need to make sure your skin is hydrated, especially those dry areas over your spots, because if they're too dry you will really have a hard time covering, and then you'll make them look more noticeable because they'll be dry. Okay, so I think I am going back in a few more layers now. It is worth doing this because you'll get a really flawless base, as you can see at the end of the video. She ends up with a really lovely looking flawless base. So I'm just going back in. You'll need about, 2 or 3 layers of concealer, but that's just the really best way, and especially if you want to make it last all day long. If you're going to a wedding, or if you, had a day out and you really wanted your skin to look flawless all day long, this is the way to do it. This spot here of Jo's is kind of the most raised. This will be the most difficult one to cover because it is raised off the skin. And I've just applied a little of the concealer with a bigger brush. And now going back in with a smaller brush and just gently pushing some concealer onto that blemish. And as you can see, the redness gets taken away, which is good. This Laura Mercier concealer is number SC3. It comes in a palette, 2 colours, so it's really good all year round. I'm now just going to finish Jo's makeup. I'm actually going to put some under eye concealer because we're actually going to do the whole of her makeup and not just cover her spots, so she ends up with a nice pretty makeup look. This is an eye concealer by Makeup Forever, and I'm just patting that under the skin and blending with the Real Techniques brush. So now for covering the concealer. This is a MAC Mineralize Skinfinish powder. It's a very satiny powder that basically is a great finishing product if you have done a lot of concealing work. It's very silky, so it looks really natural on the skin. And actually what I like to do is put a little bit of powder, then go back in with a bit of concealer, and then I'll do a bit of powder over the top. So you're kind of layering concealer, powder, concealer, and that really makes the makeup stay. So now I'm just going back in with my MAC Mineralize. And as you can see, the redness has really started to disappear, which is exactly the result we wanted. And again, you can see I'm being quite gentle. I'm not pushing the product around too much because I don't want to mess up the concealing work we've done. And that looks really, really good. Nice and fresh. Jo doesn't look like she's plastered in makeup. And now I'm just putting a little translucent powder just over the eyelids, as we're going to be putting some eyeshadow on. I'm using a really nice peachy colour by Suqqu. We're keeping this look quite natural for daytime. And I'm taking a blending brush. I think this is a Louise Young Tapered brush. And now a Clarins bronze eyeliner just to give a little bit of colour just on the eyelash line. I'm just taking that across. Jo's got really nice pretty colour dark blue eyes, so I'm just using a bronze as that will make the colour of her eyes stand out more. These pencils are quite soft actually, so they're quite nice to use on the eye because they're not too hard and dragging along the eye. And now I am just smudging that with the end smudger just to give it a nice soft look, and I'm just putting a little bit of the peachy colour just under her eye and a bit of the pencil. I'm using the kind of dark brown colour just to give a little bit more definition to the lash line. We're just keeping this makeup look quite simple as it's a kind of daytime makeup look. And I'm just using an angled brush as that really helps to apply the product onto the lash line. And just finishing off with a Max Factor mascara. And now I'm going to be using some NARS bronzer. This is Laguna, one of my favourite bronzers. And I'm using an angled brush because I just want to give a little bit of definition to Jo's face. And this just shows you how you can easily apply makeup after you have concealed your spots. You know, it doesn't mean that you can't wear any other makeup. So I'm just, if you see now, just applying it to where Jo would naturally catch the sun, so on her forehead, on her temples, and then on her cheekbones. And then I'll be using some blusher as well, just to add the colour back into the face. So I think when you've done a really nice concealed look, you do need to then go back in with your bronzer or contour or blusher and just add a little bit more colour. This is a lovely MAC blusher. I'll put the colour below because I can't actually remember the colour. And this is a lovely, pretty, fresh pink colour. And I'm just applying it to the apples and then blending upwards and outwards. I'm finishing off with a Clinique Chubby stick in Mighty Mimosa, which is one of my favourite colours. Looks really nice with Jo's skin tone, and it will really make her eyes stand out. And the finishing touches now, I'm just going back in with my MAC Mineralize powder, and I'm just touching up just the areas where I want that little bit more extra coverage. And as you can see now, you can hardly see any of the redness.
Oh wow! Yeah, that looks fantastic. That complete redness is gone.
That's the LMSC.
Oh, it looks so grown up.
Oh, love it. So that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I really hope you learnt something. Just remember, if you do suffer with spots, you don't have to plaster yourself in a heavy foundation. Your skin can still look really nice and natural. Jo loved her makeup, and she's definitely going to try these techniques out. So thanks again, and don't forget to subscribe to the Made Up channel.